All right, what is going on? Welcome into Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby, Joe Shea Neal. Not sure if Trace is going to be joining us tonight or not. He is out working, like you mentioned last night. But yeah, Reds leading 9-6 here as we go to the ninth. Been a fun night so far, Shay.
Sure has, Nick. Feels good to, after the frustrations out of the break, that series in Milwaukee that we don't like talking about, and then first couple games in that series to the Giants. Nice to see them bounce back in the end of that series against San Francisco. And for the most part tonight, they've looked really good against what's probably going to be a playoff Diamondbacks team.
Yeah, this is a good D-backs team. Thought the Reds had really good at-bats early in this game and kind of were able to break through, I think largely in part because of that. And let's see if Alexis Diaz can nail this down tonight. It'd be nice to give him and Lucas Sims a day off. Kind of hoping that earlier, but it feels like kind of all year whenever we've
the cardiac kids don't roll that way.
Yeah, that's not how this season goes. But, yeah. Well, as always, make sure you like the stream. That stuff is good. If you're watching this after the fact, if you go right below into the show notes, put a timestamp on when the game ends and when we just kind of do a normal podcast style show. What you hear if you listen to the podcast version, so you can go ahead and skip ahead. You don't have to watch us knuckleheads. So yeah, here we go.
Now, Nick, unfortunately, I have not been to a game yet this year because I decided right when the Reds got good to move half a country away. But I have heard that Alexis Diaz's intro that he uses now, the El Matador intro that he has when he comes into the game in the ninth, I've heard it's become quite a hit in Cincinnati now.
Yeah, it does bang. It does bang. We got to get you to a game, Shay. And Matt, not sure if you heard, Trace is doing some work this weekend. They're doing a show this weekend. I may be able to join us, may not. But you got me and Shay. We'll do our best to hold down the fort tonight. Shay, how do you feel about this? Should the Reds wear City Connect jerseys every game? I kind of like the once a week. I think it kind of adds a little bit more to it.
I agree with you. I really like the City Connect jerseys. I'm waiting. I'm going to absolutely get one. I might get two. But I think that keeping them on a rotation keeps them special. I think if you start wearing them even like 2-3 times a week, they probably get old fast. So I'm fine with the way they do it now. I think Friday nights are a good night to do it too.
Calvin, 3:15 a.m. joining us. What a trooper. All right, there we go. There's one.
He hasn't had a great year this year, Nick, but Alek Thomas is a guy that I just like a lot. It feels like he has all the tools and he could be a future star. So I know that not a lot of he's now kind of like an afterthought because of Corbin Carroll, but I think if he gets it all put together, he's not much worse than Corbin Carroll.
He's a great defensive player, that's for sure.
And former top prospect. He was a higher rated prospect than Carroll for a while.
Really?
Yeah, I think for like a year or so, he was higher rated than Carroll was. There was a point where they were both top 15 prospects in all of baseball.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Ooh. Perdomo's been out in front on the last two pitches, so I think you'd think Alexis would try to bury a slider here.
Yeah, he's had a rough night defensively, that's for sure.
He's a weird kind of leadoff hitter. He's a good player, but it's just he doesn't do anything great.
There we go.
Everything pretty well. One out to go. And you don't need me to tell you this, Nick, and chat's smart enough that I don't need to tell them this either. But how big is it that Marte's coming up with nobody on base?
Yeah, Marte's sixth highest B WAR in Diamondbacks history.
That's one heck of a trade they made with the Mariners.
Yeah. I think they might have won that one.
It's looking pretty good for them.
Oh, no. All right.
Pitch.
All right. Yeah.
Let's go. That's a win.
Woo! That's 3 in a row.
Let's do a show.
Let's do a show.
High fly. Left center field. Racing back to the Laurel Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did. He did. Red win. Line to right field. Genius, the first Red ever. With 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, give me a second. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, what is going on? Nick Kirby, Shay Neal here. Welcome to Chatterbox Reds, your daily home for Cincinnati Reds content all season long. Shay, finally got back in the win column a couple days ago and have parlayed that into 3 in a row. How about that?
Yes, sir. Good to feel good to get back in that win column. Now back to what's looking to be back within 2 games in the division. We'll see if the Braves can hang on in Milwaukee. They're up 6-4 in the 9th, but good to get a win, to start the series. You have 2 less sure starters going the next couple of days. Williamson's looked good the last couple of days, but he's still a rookie. And then you've got, who knows, right now it's Weaver on Sunday, but who knows if he's going to be ready to go. But always good to get the series opener. Now you have 2 chances to win the series.
Yeah, well, let's jump into the box score recap right away. If you're watching, like the stream, really would appreciate that. That kind of stuff really helps us out a lot. So top of the first, Ben Lively gave up a solo home run to Ketel Marte just over the right field fence. That made it 1-0 D-backs. And the bottom of the first, Reds got that run back. Nick Senzel reached on an air. Matt McLain ripped a single up the middle. Senzel and McLain pulled off a double steal, and then Steer force out, tied the game up at 1. In the top of the second, Christian Encarnacion-Strand nearly hit 2 home runs. One was fouled on the left field line. The other was a 357-foot fly out to right field. But then Stevenson and Benson walked. Ellie De La Cruz was hit by a pitch, and then Nick Senzel grounded into what was called an ending double play, but that was overturned to give the Reds a 2-1 lead. D-backs, they tied it up on an Alec Thomas double and a Geraldo Perdomo single. And then in the bottom of the fourth, Nick Senzel and Matt McLain each walked with 2 outs. Spencer Steer made those walks haunt with a 2 RBI double to put the Reds up 4-2. Ben Lively got the first 2 batters out in the 5th, but then he walked Perdomo, and Ketel Marte crushed a liner off the right field. Out to right field off the glove of Will Benson, who just slightly misplayed the ball. That made it a 4-3 game. Then David Bell elected to go with Alex Young against NL Rookie of the Year favorite Corbin Carroll. Young did his job and kept it a 4-3 Reds lead. It all came together in the bottom of the 5th. Christian Encarnacion-Strand singled. Bad defense struck the D-backs again, getting Tyler Stevenson on base. Will Benson hit a ground rule double to make it 5-3. Diamondbacks elected to intentionally walk Ellie De La Cruz. And then with 2 outs and 2 strikes, the play of the game, Matt McLain hit his first career grand slam. That put the Reds up 9-3. Fernando Cruz did give up 2 home runs and 3 runs in the 7th. That cut the Reds' lead to 9-6. Lucas Sims a little bit shaky in the 8th, but got through that scoreless. And Alexis Diaz 1-2-3 in the 9th. Reds win. Reds now 53-46. Reds are tied for a playoff spot because both the Phillies and Marlins lost. So the Reds are tied in the NL wildcard race, and we are monitoring a situation in Milwaukee where the Brewers are down 6-4. Our top exit velocity of the day, 108.1 off the bat of Jonathan India. And our deep drive of the day is sponsored by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks to our friends at Deep South Commodities. Well, Shay, how's it feel? Good game tonight overall. I thought really early in this game, before we kind of get into some of the individual performances, I really just thought there was a lot of really good at-bats throughout this game by the Reds.
Yeah, no, it seemed like they were seeing the ball well against Tommy. Is it Tommy Henry? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, but it seemed like they were seeing the ball well against him. A little bit frustrating that 4 or 5 balls died on the warning track. It looked like CES had one that was just foul. It looked like Benson had one that died on the track. It looked like, it was just kind of an irritating first couple of innings. But, they stayed true. They had good at-bats. I think they got runners on base in each of the first 4, maybe even 5 innings. And, when you put that kind of pressure on a young pitcher, having guys on base in 4 or 5 straight innings, he's eventually going to make a mistake. And he did make mistakes, and the Reds did a nice job capitalizing.
Yeah, let's talk about Matt McLain. What a big shot in this game. Obviously that was insurance runs at the time, but the D-backs are a really good offensive team. So when you have a chance to really, I think, pounce on them early, you got to do it. What a swing by Matt McLain. What a moment for him in this ball game. Yeah,
he's just such a I talked about it with Clay a couple nights ago, but he's just such a professional hitter. It's unbelievable that he's not even 3 months into his big league career yet, Nick, and he's having at bats that 2-3-time All-Star shortstop in the prime of his career would have. The sky is just unbelievably the limit for Matt McLain. I mean, if he's doing this as a rookie, just so composed at the plate, so solid defensively, I don't know if he's ever going to be a flashy guy, but I mean, Matt McLain, along with Spencer Steer, both of those guys have just been so impressive to me because they just seem like those kind of guys. They're never really going to struggle for long periods of time because they're just such solid players all over the diamond.
Yeah, and Will Benson, I tell you what, he just keeps performing. I know I put out a tweet. Is he the Reds' best player? And then a lot of people push back on the defense. I think the defense definitely is probably not there yet.
Yes.
And then of course Matt McLain, like 2 minutes later, it's a grand slam. But Will Benson, man, how far he has come this season. It's just incredible. I think there's more to it than just Benson himself. I think it's really a lot of just like the organization philosophy, just on how they're getting players ready. Players who don't succeed, they're sending them down, letting them work on things. I know Benson was on the Jim Day podcast, really, really good podcast this week, and talked about how Pat Kelly down at AAA just said, hey, you're meant to be here right now. There's nothing wrong with that. Just work on your stuff. And man, he's come back and he's just been absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, no, he has. And, a lot of the guys on this Reds roster are guys that you want to root for and guys that you pull for to succeed. But I don't know if there's a bigger guy that you're pulling for on this roster than Will Benson. I mean, he's just, what he went through at the beginning of the year. And just, I tweeted it a couple of days ago, Nick. I'm not sure if you saw it, but that interview he did with Jim Day after the game, he was smiling that whole interview. He was thanking David Bell for playing him in the lineup every day. He mentioned that story with Pat Kelly when he went down to AAA on Jim Day's podcast. And then at the end of the interview, he shakes Jim Day's hand and just goes running, smiling into the dugout. I mean, how can Reds fans not want that guy to be a superstar? He's just such a likable guy. And like we've said before, I mean, his progression as a player, it's a movie script. He's gone from a guy that seemed to be an outcast among the fan base to a guy that looks like a future star on this Reds team.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's talk about Ben Lively. Let's start off with the decision to pull him early. I like the decision. I thought Lively pitched pretty well in this game overall. I'm really impressed. He's getting a lot of strikeouts, a lot more strikeouts than I really ever envisioned him having. 6 today. But I like the decision. I mean, the game was kind of on the line there. Tying run was on base. Corbin Carroll is a significantly lesser hitter against lefties. If there was one spot in the game for Alex Young, that was it. And Alex Young got the job done.
Yeah, no, I think Lively pitched well tonight. Like you said, he had swing and miss stuff. I thought he was locating his sinker at the top of the zone pretty well. I think, when you have a fastball that has sinking movement and you can drop it right at that top level of the zone, it freezes a lot of hitters because they're not expecting a pitch with that much velocity to kind of drop like that. And I thought he did a good job with that. I thought his slider was solid. I think I've seen his slider look better, but I think it was solid. I'm fine with the decision to pull him when they did. First of all, no knock on Ben Lively. Corbin Carroll's one hell of a player. And I don't know if I'd like any right-handed pitcher's odds of facing Corbin Carroll 3 times. So I'm fine with it on that regard. I also think David Bell did a nice job of monitoring the situation, Nick, because, he only had 76 pitches when he pulled him. But if you watch the game in the first 3-4 innings, he did a great job getting ahead of almost every hitter he faced. With the Marte, Perdomo, and then the bottom of their lineup, Thomas and Moreno, that was 4 straight hitters that he fell behind in the count on. So it seemed like he was losing feel on his off-speed pitches. That slider wasn't landing in the zone like it was the first couple innings. And with a hitter with the talent of Corbin Carroll coming up and him starting to not feel his off-speed as well as he was in the first couple innings, I think David Bell, I think it was the perfect time to pull him.
Yeah. I think it's as much about Alex Young and Corbin Carroll's, I think, deficiencies against lefties as anyone else. I mean, this is a big series for the Reds. And, I like the move. And I would have liked the move even if it didn't work out.
Well, and I saw somebody said that, and they made a good point. They said sometimes you want your starter to learn how to work out of a situation like that. And I agree. I think there are situations where you want your starter to kind of grind through that and get through that inning and qualify for the win and give your bullpen an extra inning. But facing Corbin Carroll for a third time as the go-ahead run just isn't the situation for me. I think David Bell, in the heat of the moment, like I said, if Ben Lively was still getting ahead of hitters and he had just given up a couple, a hit and a walk or something like that, that's one thing. But that was 4 consecutive hitters that he fell behind 1-0 or 2-0 to. I just think with the talent of Carroll, it's more the talent of Carroll than it is the deficiencies of Ben Lively. But I think it just made sense to bring in the lefty.
Yeah, and I mean, I also, with all due respect to Ben Lively, he's been incredible and been a huge part of the Reds' success this year. Don't make no mistake about that. But I mean, I don't think we're banking on Ben Lively 3-4 years down the road. If he continues to pitch well and sticks with the Reds for that long, that would be incredible. But I don't think we're necessarily looking for that. I think continue to kind of take what you've been given. You don't have to push it. I mean, everyone got the job done, really, except for Fernando Cruz. It looked really, really good the first 2 batters he faced, and then the wheels kind of fell off. Kind of been a little bit of the Fernando Cruz story. I think this year, where at times you're like, man, this guy's really got some great stuff. Know. And then it can fall off pretty quick. And
I will tell you, Nick, I mean, obviously it's not the box score for Fernando Cruz tonight. It wasn't what you wanted it to be. But first of all, Bryce Spalding made a good point that home run was kind of a cheapy, unlucky home run. And then it was an infield single. And then Marte just had a great night tonight. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we hit on this. And I see somebody in the chat already saying it, I think. But that play that he had on that infield hit, I know he didn't get him. But speaking as a former pitcher myself, nowhere near the level of Fernando Cruz. That was an unbelievable play off the mound. I never in my life had the athleticism to even try that.
Yeah, I didn't see that play. I might have been putting the kids to bed. When was
it?
It
was so a little chopper on the right side of the mound, and he grabs it. He twists, and without even setting his feet, he just kind of throws, falling away. And it was a dart, and Perdomo only beat it out by about a step. But it was an unbelievable play.
How about a CES? I didn't have CES in the rundown, but Brando99 brings it up. Man, he just looks. I know, like, he had the two balls that were both almost home runs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so impressed with how comfortable he looks.
He stepped in and he's just been a cog in the machine, Nick. I mean, you wouldn't have guessed it was his third career game today. He looks like he's been with the team for half the year. I think that we'll see his at-bats as he goes forward, but I mean, he brings so much pop where that his first career home run and that at-bat against I forget who the pitcher was, but that wasn't a bad pitch. That was a slider right on the corner down and away, and he just went down and got it. And he just has that much natural power to him. And I think even today I saw him he was ahead 3-1 on the single he had in the 5th inning. And as soon as it went 3-1, I'm like, if you're throwing him a fastball here, he's going to belt it. And sure enough, he did. Bullet up the middle, base hit. And there's some sort of comfort you have with Christian Encarncaion-Strand that you just know he's going to give you good swings and he's going to hit the ball hard. Him and Matt McLain could not be more different frames and kind of skill sets, but one of the similarities that they have is that they're both going to do whatever it takes to hit the ball hard.
Spencer Steer was really kind of scuffling there for a little bit. 2 hits today. I feel like he's looked pretty good this week. I feel like he's just working through a typical normal rookie slump and kind of getting back on track.
Yeah, and Spencer Steer, I mentioned it earlier. Spencer Steer is a guy that I think Trace mentioned it a couple days ago, but he's a guy that he's earned my trust that I'm really not going to worry about Spencer Steer when he goes through mini slumps like this, because he still had good at-bats. I mean, how many times in this stretch where he went, 1 of 22 or something like that, he either hit the ball hard or he worked a 2-2 count, 3-2 count. It's not like he's striking out on 3 pitches like we've seen with Ellie De La Cruz or like we've seen with Will Benson or like we've seen with Tyler Stevenson. Spencer Steer puts up professional quality at-bats when he's struggling. So I think that Spencer Steer and Matt McLain both, they're in the box like they're 5-year veterans. And because of that, I don't think Matt McLain or Spencer Steer, both of them, will really ever have an extended slump. I could be wrong. I could eat this take in a couple years. But what I see right now from Spencer Steer, he just looks like a gamer. And I think 1 for 22 is about the longest slump we'll see from a guy like Spencer Steer.
Trying to find a comment here. There it is. As CES struck out. Yeah, look this up. CES only struck out 1 time in 17 at bats so far.
Wasn't it his first game too?
I think it might have been. Yeah, I mean, this was a guy that I think the swing and miss was kind of maybe his biggest weakness. We thought, back a couple months ago, and I'm sure they'll probably show up a little bit here, kind of as we as the season goes on, but. Yeah, I mean, that's really, really remarkable. And it's not like he's been swinging every first pitch. He's had a lot of at-bats where he's taken a couple pitches. He's worked the count. So, yeah, that's a good observation there.
Yeah, he's played 5 games. I just looked at the game log. He's played 5 games, 17 at-bats. He's only struck out once. It was yesterday against the Giants in the series finale.
Wow. That is something else for sure. All right. How about this note today? TJ Antone scheduled to start a rehab assignment on July 25th. I guess that's what is that? Is that Tuesday next week?
Yep.
How about that? I was not banking on this. Were you?
No, not at all. You're absolutely right. I think that when he got hurt again, I was in the same boat as a lot of people where I said, if we get TJ Antone back, great. But going into a second Tommy John surgery, you just don't bank on a guy coming back from that. And the fact that not only is he coming back, it seems like, and he's starting a rehab assignment, but Nick, I don't know how many of his recorded bullpen sessions that you've seen that he shared on social media. He looks good. That off speed is moving. That velocity is up. I think he's throwing like 95, 96. He looks good. And I'm very excited because somebody mentioned it earlier tonight. Sims and Diaz get used a lot. They got used again tonight. Buck Farmer looked good tonight, but he's been used a lot. Ian Jabot gets used a lot. Alex Young gets used a lot. Getting a guy like TJ Antone, if he can stay healthy for the final 2 months of the year, that is a huge weapon for the Reds bullpen, whether it's multiple innings to help a starter who didn't go deep into the game, or he can be another guy that helps gets outs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah, any help you can get for the bullpen would be huge. I think even with the potential of Anton, I still think the Reds should look at adding a reliever here at the deadline for sure. All right, well, we're monitoring the situation in Milwaukee. They got 2 runners on, bottom of the 9th, 6-4 Braves. So
Blake Perkins is coming up. So
come on, man, one more out. Need this one tonight. Need it for sure. Any other thoughts? I don't want to jump into Reds minor league because I want to see what happens here, and I don't want to be distracted. I want to kind of run through it in somewhat of a respectful manner for our Reds minor leaguers. Any other thoughts on the game tonight, Jay?
Well, just I think it's important to say. I think Trace hinted at it yesterday as well. But a lot of people, myself included, have been pretty harsh on Jonathan India over the last month and a half, and I think it's fair. I don't think he's played very well, and I think I was texting one of my friends the other day, Nick, and I said it's just crazy how far along that this team has come. Where a guy that was undisputably the best player on the team 2 years ago might be the weakest hitter on the team now. And that's just, it's not, I didn't mean that to be a knock on Jonathan India, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think he's the weakest hitter on the team. But over the last month, he has been the weakest hitter in that lineup. And I think it's just crazy that, the Reds have just completely 180'd the hitting core like that. But I think yesterday he had a couple hits. Today he had 2 hits and a walk as well. He seems to be seeing the ball a lot better the last couple of days. Hopefully, he keeps to having good at-bats, because we know when Jonathan India gets into 2-ball, 3-ball counts, he does a good job of hitting the ball hard, and even if he's retired, he makes it a good at-bat. So I think if he can get back to getting ahead in counts and not overthinking it, having Jonathan India, whether it's in the 5-hole, 6-hole, 7-hole, wherever he ends up hitting, having Jonathan India back swinging the bat well is obviously a great addition for this lineup. Yeah,
I think about Jonathan India. He's got a 255 average, 339 on base percentage. He's got 14 home runs. OPS is over 750 right now.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for literally almost all of Spencer Steer, Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McLain, and Noelvi Marte getting up to AAA, no one's complaining about Jonathan India right now.
Right.
It's really it's more about what the other guys have done, and kind of I think probably the higher upside that a lot of those guys bring, more so than like Jonathan India. Jonathan India is not playing bad. Jonathan India is almost playing to his expectations, maybe slightly below, but he's not far off from what you would expect from him this year if you were placing bets on his production.
Right. And I don't know how much this has changed over the last 2 weeks or so, but I think I saw somewhere maybe 2 weeks ago that his metrics this year are better than they were last year. Not quite as good as his rookie year, but a lot of people were saying this is probably the player that Jonathan India is. He's probably not as good as the player we saw his rookie season, but he's not as bad as the player we saw last year. He's a player that's right in the middle, and that's what he's been this year. And you mentioned his 14 home runs. That's what really stood out to me when I was talking with Clay, filling in for you guys on Chatterbox Reds night. I was like, it's crazy that he has been in such a funk for a month and a half. And Nick, he's still on pace for a 25 home run season for a second baseman. Like, I mean, who does that? Marcus Semien and Ozzie Albies. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 100 weighted runs created plus right now. So yeah, he's it's more about the other guys, and I think that we've exhausted all the talk about what we think we should do with them. So I'm not going to get into that at this point. I've seen a lot of comments in the chat about Joey Votto and his struggles. I'm not really worried about Joey Votto struggling in terms of like his ability. I think he still is valuable enough and has enough value, at least versus right-handed pitching. I do not like him starting against left-handed pitching like he did tonight. I think that not only are you putting a hitter that really hasn't hit left-handed pitching well for almost a half decade at this point in the lineup, you're also weakening your defense as well, because Spencer Steer had to play in left field. And this lineup today was, I think, really the first time that the 3-catcher lineup, or having 3 catchers, really I felt like it could actually be weighing the team down, because really the Reds got the lineups that they wanted, I think, out outside of really tonight was the first night that I really felt it. And it just like Stuart Fairchild, getting him in the lineup, moving Spencer Steer either to third base or first base, moving other guys around. It's a better team against left-handed pitching. So again, I guess I'm like kind of hedging there. I'm not really worried about him against right-handed pitching. I think if you just look at his numbers against right-handed pitching, they're fine. They're good numbers. It's the lefties that are really killing him and weighing him down. And really it's been weighing down his overall numbers for several years now because he's honestly, I just think played too much against lefties.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'm with you that it's almost a strict platoon at this point for Joey Votto, where I think he should play almost every day against righties, and I don't think he should play hardly ever against lefties. Now, I saw somebody in chat say that he doesn't need to hit 280 anymore, but he needs to hit higher than 200. I agree. I think somewhere for a Joey Votto's production with this team and this lineup at his age right now, I think, 225, 230, 240, and just, continue to produce runs like he has. It feels like, his batting average may be low, Nick, but he has had clutch at bats this year. He already has 21 runs batted in. I believe it's 23 games since he's been activated. So he's driving in almost a run a night. He has 8 home runs. So, the power and the run production is still there for Joey Votto. It's just about having those consistent at-bats and getting on base. And, I've learned to not bet against Joey Votto. So I still will not do that until I absolutely have to. But since you mentioned, his numbers against lefties, this kind of popped in my head. You have Spencer Steer that's playing a lot more left field now. And you have, of course, Nick Senzel, who played center field tonight. But it seems like inevitably, with the way the roster is constructed right now, you will have a left-handed hitter in the outfield playing against left-handed pitching, whether it's Friedel or Fraley or Benson. There's probably going to be a lefty in the lineup against a left-handed pitcher most days. Now, I'm curious your thoughts on, I think until a couple weeks ago, I would have said Friedel's probably the best left-handed hitter against left-handed pitching, and he still has the best numbers, just because it feels like, he's the most consistent hitter against both sides of the plate. But now I'm starting to lean a little bit more towards Will Benson. I thought he had some good at-bats tonight. I know it wasn't the toughest lefty in baseball, Nick, but I stand on the ground that if Will Benson was the leadoff hitter on this team, he might lead all of baseball in walks. And he has good at-bats, and I think he's got enough confidence at this point that he can barrel it up against both sides of the plate. So I think, I think you'll see all three of them get some time, but I'm more willing to let Benson play against lefties, I think.
All right, we got a lot to unpack here. So Brewers lose. The Reds game and a half back in the NL Central. Like I mentioned earlier, tied for a wild card spot. So it's going to be July 22nd, and the Reds are going to be right here in the hunt. So that's exciting. Let's start with Votto. The splits are drastic. And again, I caution anyone on splits over short samples. Like if Joey Votto had been crushing lefties for the last 5 years, I wouldn't give a damn about his 20 at-bats against lefties this year. But you have that added with the 5 years of data. So far this year, hitting 150 against lefties, 646 OPS. He had that one home run against the lefty, which is kind of, I think, carrying that OPS just to be at 650, and I think his first game. Against righties, he's only hitting 210, but he's got a 916 OPS because he has 7 home runs against right-handed pitching. So I think he's still a very valuable hitter against right-handed pitching. I just don't think he should be playing against left-handed pitching, and I think that the numbers would look fine, and I think most rational people would be fine with that if you're not playing as much against lefties. Mm-hmm. On Benson and Friedel, I still like Friedel a lot more. Again, I trust larger samples of splits. You can there's none more than was it 2020 Jesse Winker is your best example. He had like a great 10 games against left-handed pitching, and everyone's like, yeah, he can play every day, but you're like, the 5 years prior and every year in the minor leagues, it wasn't really that way. TJ Friedel is a unicorn where almost every year in the minor leagues, he either hit lefties almost as good, or some years he was even better. So I think I trust Friedel more. I think Friedel's clearly a better defensive player, which matters a lot too. Could Benson be a guy that could hit lefties and play every day? Maybe he have to improve his defense, his numbers weren't terrible in the minor leagues, but they weren't. There was not a huge drop off, not like a Jake Fraley level drop off against left-handed pitching in the minors, but there was enough of a drop off that when you combine that with his defense, I still think Friedel's a much better, a much safer option.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I agree with you that Friedel, obviously his defense is probably the difference right now. But I think it's all part of the progression of Will Benson. We've already seen so much in 3 months. I think he could very easily be almost an everyday starter for this team. Even as early as he's already basically been, but next year I think he could play almost every day as well. And I think his at bats he seems like the kind of guy to me, Nick, that with some guys you don't even bother. Where the age old saying is, how are you gonna know if they can't hit lefties unless you give them at bats against lefties? Benson feels like to me one of those exceptions where if you give him enough at bats against lefties, he feels like I feel like he has the skill set where he could at least hold his own.
All right, John. Trace is working on a new intro that is coming. It's going to have some SADAC calls, and I don't know if it's got that one in specific. I haven't even seen the intro yet, but it is coming. Got a lot of things in the works here at Chatterbox, so trying to get a lot of things accomplished. But a new intro video with some updated stuff is on the way, so look out for that here soon. Want to talk some Reds minor league, Shay?
Sure.
All right. Chattanooga is in action right now. They are trailing 7-5 to Birmingham. Julian Aguilar started the game. Had a really rough start today. Actually, I guess they ended up looking at. He gave a lot of runs early. 5 innings, 4 runs, but they give up 8 hits. 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. So I guess he actually really did bounce back at this because I think he had given up 4 runs in like the first inning. The first couple innings, yeah. So he did bounce back a little bit, but that's the game that's going on right now. And then we have a lot of other games that have gone final. Louisville, they won 16-1 over Columbus tonight. And Connor Phillips. Boy, I'm getting excited about Connor Phillips, Shay. 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts. Our friend Clay Snowden is a coward. His own words.
No, those are his words. You're right.
Said he wouldn't call up Connor Phillips this year, and I think he's nuts. I don't necessarily think you have to call up Connor Phillips as a starter. I'd be okay with calling him up as like a 2-3 inning guy, maybe a swingman, kind of like how Levi Stout has been used. Mm-hmm. But man, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I want to see Connor Phillips this year.
Well, Nick, you and I are on the same page, and I also saw that tweet. And my response to Clay, I did not directly call him a coward like you did. I'm a little nicer than that. But I said, I think Connor Phillips to me screams September call-up guy that gets a couple starts here and there to hopefully keep Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, both 1 fresh and 2 in line for what would be a potential playoff series. I think that's going to be Connor Phillips's role on this team this year. I think when we get to late August, early September, and this Reds team still fighting for a playoff spot, hopefully they're winning a division or locking up a wild card spot. I think that's where we see Connor Phillips, where maybe you push Abbott back a day to keep him kind of in line for what the playoff schedule would be, or maybe you push Hunter Green back a day. I think that's where you'd see Connor Phillips get those starts and take those innings.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited about Connor Phillips. I think he's got a incredible future. And, man, that trade that everyone complained about all year last year, boy, has it turned. All right, Noelvi Marte, he was 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. Jose Barrero, man, he has really caught fire. 2 for 5, hit another home run tonight. He's got 6 down in AAA. Stuart Fairchild, just sitting there, ready to roll whenever the Reds decide to bring him up. 4 for 6 with a double. And then TJ Hopkins, he hit 2 home runs tonight as well. A great night for the Louisville Bats. I saw Philip Deal was pitching for the Columbus Clippers, the Guardians affiliate tonight. I don't know what he did, but I did see that he was pitching at one point. The Dayton Dragons, they won 6-2 over Wisconsin. Hunter Parks, that's the guy that the play-by-play announcer Tom Nichols said is the guy that scouts are asking the most about. Pitched just 2 innings tonight. Only allowed 1 hit, struck out 2. Austin Hendrick eating up a little bit, hit another home run tonight. He's got 8 on the year. And then Jay Allen, also had 2 hits. And then the Daytona Tortugas, they might have lost 16-4 tonight, but that is not the headline. Carlos Jorge hit for the cycle for the Tortugas. Really exciting player. I'd love to be able to see him play a little bit more, as a lot of those games aren't on television. But he also apparently made his debut in center field tonight. So Reds may be seeing him more as a center fielder going forward. Definitely has the speed. Has, I think, like over 30 stolen bases so far this year. And then Sal Stewart, he also homered again. He's got 9 home runs on the year. Any of those guys that I mentioned, Shay, you got any thoughts on?
Well, you mentioned Connor Phillips. I mean, his stuff electric. Carlos Jorge as well. Just unbelievable. The fact that he's creeping up on 300 with that batting average. I believe his OPS, if it's not at 900, it's pretty dang close in a league that is historically hard to hit in. And I'm like, I mean, there are top prospects that end up being elite hitters in Major League Baseball that struggled in the Florida State League. So the fact that he's putting up those numbers, ridiculous. And he's not in the lineup tonight for Chattanooga, but just I've had a lot of fun this week, Nick, watching the Blake Dunn show.
Yeah, Blake Dunn is man, he's having an awesome minor league
season. He's an electric player, man.
He's one of those guys. He's kind of like TJ Friedel in a way, where a guy that probably was counted out. I don't even think he maybe had as much promise as Friedel had, because Friedel, when he was drafted, was a higher draft, or had that whole weird draft thing, and had a little bit more pedigree. But Blake Dunn is just what makes minor league baseball fun. When you just have these guys that kind of come out of nowhere. He's got power, he's got speed. I don't know if he's a like actually like big league starter, but I think he's got a legit chance to be a big leaguer and be a contributor.
Oh, I completely agree. I think what we've seen this year, there's sometimes you can scout a lot of things with prospects. You can scout, a hit tool. You can scout kind of some guys just have better launch angle and better exit velocity than other guys. Blake Dunn just feels like one of those prospects, Nick, that he just finds a way. Whether it's stealing bases, hitting extra base hits, working, walks. I mean, he just finds a way to impact almost every game he's in. He's a solid defender, and I'm with you. I think he definitely seems to me much more than he was a couple months ago, a future potential piece for this Reds team.
All right, since we're getting a lot of questions about injuries, I'm going to kind of bring this up here for you, and we'll go through some of them since a lot of people are asking about that. Hunter Green, hoping to get him back in August at some point. He is throwing off of a mound, I believe, have a throwing program down in Goodyear. Hoping to have him back soon. Nick Lodolo is now September is the latest update. No calendar or timetable is the official word. So, I don't know. I guess kind of on Lodolo, I'm kind of almost thinking it's going to be hard to get him back as a starter at this point. Do you think that's fair, Shay?
Yes. I think that's tough because, I mean, we know what Nick Lodolo is capable of, obviously, when he's on his game. But and I think the Reds would still view him as a top 3 arm in this rotation if they made it to the postseason. But you're right in the sense that, he's not going to have faced live batters as a starting pitcher for 3+ months now. And that's going to take a couple weeks to build that up. And we could be looking at, late August, early September. And we mentioned a couple weeks ago, Vladimir Gutierrez is projected back, I think, the second week of September. And with minor league baseball ending the first week of September, it's going to be hard for guys to get built back up and ramp back up when you hit that point of the year. So it's an interesting thing. But the most recent thing I've seen with both of those guys, Charlie Goldsmith tweeted, I think like 2 weeks, maybe a week ago, that Hunter Green still projected for like second or third week of August. And Lodolo, like you said, no official timetable, but from what I've heard, he's a week or two behind Hunter.
Yeah, I think Lodolo. I think, I mean, you can maybe have him in a 2-3 inning role, and I mean, certainly if you're able to make the playoffs, there's nothing wrong with having a couple of those guys.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, the Reds could almost do something funky if they did make the playoffs, Nick, and do like 3 innings with Lodolo, 3 innings with Ashcraft. And do you know how like a sharp 180 in terms of hitters having to adjust to those two guys would be? You go from 90, 95 with maybe the wickedest back foot slider in all of baseball to a guy throwing 99 with cut. And all of a sudden, I think that could definitely be something the Reds do, where maybe they slide a guy like a Lively to like that long relief role. And then they do Green and Abbott as your conventional starters and Lodolo and Ashcraft in some kind of weird hybrid opener second guy role.
Yeah, I mean, if the Reds are fortunate enough to make the playoffs, we got a long way to go.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We got a long way to go. If your first round's a 3-game series. So, I mean, realistically, you have Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott.
And then all hands on deck. Yeah.
And then you have a Lodolo Ashcraft. Well, you've just solved your 3 games right there.
Right.
And if you win the division, you get those 3 games at home, all 3 at home. So that's kind of a cool thing. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Long way to go. We still got a trade deadline to get through. We still got some really, really difficult series, but nonetheless, yeah. I think Vladimir Gutierrez, I think they'll be a little more aggressive with him. With all due respect to Vlad Gutierrez, I don't necessarily think they're as worried about, rushing him back as maybe Nick Lodolo. So I think they'll be a little more aggressive with him, try to have him just be another arm. I don't know if Vladimir Gutierrez is like a bona fide starter, but anyone, when you get that late into the year, that you have that is capable of being even close to an average starter, you'll take, because pitching becomes really, really difficult, especially when you have a team that has this many young pitchers as the Reds have.
Right. And well, that's why a guy like a Connor Phillips could end up being such a sneaky big piece of this team down the stretch, because all of a sudden you get to September and you're, within a couple games of a playoff spot, and maybe you're holding Andrew Abbott off a day so that he can match up with Brandon Woodruff in the Brawl. I know they don't play the Brewers in September, but you're holding him off for, a matchup with a team that's fighting for a playoff spot with you. And you'd rather have Abbott go in that game. And all of a sudden, guys like Vlad Gutierrez or guys like Connor Phillips or guys like Brett Kennedy, Reds legend Brett Kennedy, Nick, they all of a sudden become huge pieces where it's like, hey, go out and get me 5 innings.
Yeah, I can't forget about Brandon Williamson. I tell you what, he could also be a really effective, 2-3 inning guy as you get late in the season. I think the Reds could do a lot of creative things, if you have, because the Reds could potentially, assuming health, which is a big if with the starting pitch, they could potentially have almost like 8 or 9 technically starting pitchers in the fold like come September, and the Reds could just like go wild and have guys throw in 3 innings and 3 innings and really kind of maximize your young talent, and not in the playoffs. They could do it like the whole month of September.
Yeah, the Reds could easily do what I think it was the Padres that did it a couple years ago, where every other game they do, it's just 4 or 5 different pitchers that all go 1 or 2 innings, and nobody throws more than like 30 pitches.
Well, that's what the Giants do almost all year. They're kind of a trailblazer in this. They of course have Logan Webb and Alex Cobb, kind of like their 2 staples. And they have them spread out, I think, strategically. But the other guys, they're only asking them to go 3-4 innings, and they have 3 other guys in their bullpen that are starters,
right? Yeah,
that are stretched out, and they go 2, 3, 4 innings at a time as well. And it's a different way of doing it, So I could see the Reds maybe doing something like that down the stretch if they're able to hang in this race. So I haven't seen any official word on it yet, but this is what we think is going to be the most likely pitching matchup tomorrow. Brandon Williamson is officially going tomorrow for the Reds. Last 3 starts for Brandon Williamson, he's been awesome. He's got a 2.57 ERA, 12 strikeouts, 5 walks. Just really been so impressed with his development at the big league level. A guy that it felt like the Reds were just throwing a dart on the wall, and when they called him up, and he has absolutely answered. Another guy, kind of like Ben Lively, Williamson and Lively, just 2 guys that I think have really helped the Reds stay afloat really while these starters out, and deserve a ton of credit. I got a stat here, a couple stats here on Williamson. He's thrown inside pitches 42% of the time. That is the 2nd highest in Major League Baseball among starting pitchers with 37 innings pitched. So really throwing the ball inside a lot. I wonder if that's maybe like a Derek Johnson thing that they've kind of really gone after since he's been up. And then Brandon Williamson has not allowed a hit in the first inning of any of his last 5 starts. So he's really really got off to some really good starts. All right, how do you say this guy's name? I had it.
I think I'm not
Fott.
positive.
Fott.
I think it's Brandon
Fott.
Fott. Yeah.
Brandon Fott. Yeah, I had it. I said it in the podcast when I recorded it late last night with who I thought might be pitching. Brandon Fott. So he's been really bad this year.
But he is a high prospect.
Yeah, super high prospect. I think there's a lot of debate on him. If he's kind of one of these guys that was a high prospect that really like, when you get to like that top 20 of prospects, a lot of the guys that rank prospects are like terrified to just dump someone out or throw them way down. So I know there's a lot of debate about that. I guess we'll potentially get a firsthand view.
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks, as all their sideline reporter reported that Fott was in the dugout today. So, but they have not officially announced it yet, unless they announced it.
Nothing's official, but like you said, there's a radio talk host in Phoenix that also said that Fott's in the clubhouse and they would expect the Diamondbacks to pitch him tomorrow and then a bullpen game on Sunday.
Yeah. The manager actually did say a bullpen game, but yeah. So I mean, look, this is this is a guy. He's from Louisville.
He went to Bellarmine.
Bellarmine University down in Louisville. He pitched pretty well down in AAA over his last couple starts. So a right-handed pitcher tomorrow. So we'll look forward to that. So
he's a righty. Just to answer the question in the chat, he's a right-handed pitcher.
Yeah, right-handed pitcher. So I mean, Shay, any final thoughts here? Appreciate you coming on as always. We're gonna have you again tomorrow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. First of all, Fott, I don't know a ton about him, but I do know two types of fastballs, straight four seam, a little bit of a sinker as well. I believe his number one out pitch is a curveball. I think he does curveball slider with that fastball and sinker. So he does, from what I remember, he doesn't have a changeup. Maybe he does have a changeup and he just doesn't throw it. But I think what we're going to see for most of tomorrow is fastball, curveball, slider. So just to kind of give you a little sneak peek at what Brandon Fott throws. As for Brandon Williamson, Nick, I've said it a couple times on this show, my thoughts on Brandon Williamson. I've just been blown away with how much better he's gotten very fast. I mean, I think the number one thing for a young player, hitter or pitcher in Major League Baseball is that sense of I belong in Major League Baseball and that sense of I can contribute to a Major League Baseball team. And I think that Brandon Williamson's finally turning that corner. He's getting more velocity on his stuff. His fastball is getting better and better by the start. I think his slider looks great. His cutter looks great. His changeup's getting better. He throws 5 pitches, 4 of them pretty dang good. So I'm excited to see Brandon Williamson. Still a lot of room to grow for him, but he's cutting back on the walks. He just looks solid, and I think I'm excited to see how he looks against this Diamondbacks team, Nick, because this could be a good matchup for him where you have, of course, Marte, historically a better hitter against lefties, but does not have as much pop. The same is true for Perdomo, better average, but not as much home run power from the right side of the plate. So the two switch hitters, not as much power from the right side of the plate. Corbin Carroll, their best hitter, a lefty-lefty matchup. Alec Thomas, a lefty-lefty matchup. Jake McCarthy as well. So I really think this could be a really good matchup for Brandon Williamson if he plays his cards right tomorrow.
What's your thoughts on this? I think this is I know a lot of people have said this, and I do think, LD probably needs a day off here at some point. Fott's given up 9 home runs this year.
Yes.
And you're looking at a bullpen game on Sunday. It'd be tough to take Ellie out of the lineup in those games.
I think it's
but
I think Sunday.
But your next series is the Brewers, and you kind of want to give them an off day before that Brewers
right.
series.
I think if the Reds do give Ellie a day off, I think it would be Sunday because you're right. Fott gives up a lot of home runs. He does have a big overhand big bite curveball, which Ellie doesn't like those. But for a guy that he doesn't throw, his velocity is good, but it's not great. He throws about 95 to 97. And for a guy that sits 95, 96, he throws a lot of heaters. So I don't know if David Bell is going to take Ellie out on a day where it's a young right-handed pitcher that throws a lot of fastballs. So if I was a betting man, I'm glad I'm not. I would say that Sunday is probably the more likely day for Ellie to get a day off.
Yeah, I want CES in the lineup too. I want all the guys that that can
All the
mash.
rookies in the lineup.
Well, and all the guys that can really just mash against a guy that struggle with a long ball at Great American Ballpark. Those are the guys that I really want to see. All right, any other final thoughts here, Mr. Shea?
I think that's all I got tonight. It's good to, snap that little skid I was on. And I think now 3 of the last 4 shows I've been on, it's been 3 wins and a suspended game. So we're on a little bit of a hot streak here. Let's hope it continues tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you left at the tie, and then I came on and they lost. So
yeah, I'm not counting that as a loss for me, though. Clay and I both said the JV quarterbacks came in, we took knees, and we left 0-0. So
yeah, no, you absolutely, you can't take fault of that. All right, folks, I know you weirdos have been waiting for it. There you go. Nick Cage for dubs. Woo! There you go.
a staple.
All right, well, thanks everyone as always. Like the stream on your way out. Chatterbox Reds everywhere you get podcasts. Love if you left us a 5-star review. Appreciate all you that watch this stupid show every night. You're the best. Nothing but love. We'll see you tomorrow. 4:10 games, so we'll be on the air probably about 6:30 or so tomorrow. And hopefully celebrating win number 4 in a row for your Cincinnati Reds. All right. Have a great night, everyone.